Yo folks, welcome to the channel. In today's video, we're covering my biggest mistakes to avoid or things that I hugely regret doing for my hours of playing Honkai Star Rail within the betas. Let's jump right into this. First things being is fuel. Always have that baby recharging. One fuel takes 6 minutes to recharge, or 10 fuel equates to an hour. You have a total of 180 fuel or 18 hours worth of fuel. As soon as you jump into the game, if you see a place where you can spend that fuel, baby. Whether you're going to be playing for 2 hours, 4 hours, whatever, do the math in your head. If you're gonna be, hey, I'm just gonna like jump into the game and go to bed, do that. Spend like 80 fuel, 10 fuel, or 100 fuel. That way you'll be like, I'm good for like 8 hours or 10 hours, or however long you're not going to be playing Honkai Star Rail. You always want it to be min-maxing because fuel is probably the most time-gated, most expensive resource cumulatively as you're playing through the game. It's the one thing that's going to differentiate you from a reroller and non-reroller, because let's say you've spended your fuel for up to like 3 days. That's 3 days worth of fuel. So that's 72 hours. That's an insane amount of refreshing you to do the math. That's a lot of money. Anyways, fuel is important. Spend it, do it, don't forget about it. Jumping into the next thing. Should you be spending it on level up materials? Yes, of course. And you should also be doing level ups on Dawn Hong, March 7th, and Trailblazer. One special note about Trailblazer is that their levels do carry on to their varying versions. The only thing that doesn't carry on is their Eidolons or their dupes, and not to mention their traces, because they're going to have differing attacks and things that they can do. One's going to be preservation, one's going to be destruction, so they're going to be doing different things. I use Dawn Hong, Trailblazer, Natasha, and March 7th, and you could easily replace Trailblazer with like any character, like Meko, Hook, Sampo, whatever, so long as everyone's relatively like geared up and everything. We'll talk about like relics and gears later on, but let's jump into the other thing. Should you be leveling up 3-star Lightcones that are easy to dupe? Not to mention because you're going to be pulling multiple 3-star Lightcones. And the answer is no, and the reason for that is it's going to be really easy to get 4-star Lightcones within the game. They're going to practically hand it out to you via quests, so make sure to do quests. That's another mistake. I really regret not doing quests because I could have not used a 3-star Lightcone if I just decided to do a quest, and it gives you all these benefits like summon currency and everything. But yeah, just don't be stubborn. Do the quest. It's really important. If you're a 3-star Lightcone that's like max limit broken and you funneled all of those resources that could have gone into a 4-star or 5-star, you're definitely going to regret it. Trust me, because you're going to have to refarm all of that material, and you're also going to have to spend all of that fuel all over again. It's a very expensive endeavor that I do not recommend max limit breaking or just, putting resources into something that you just stare at and you don't use. Freaking awful. Anyways, goes to another thing. Monsters are going to be all over the map. You're going to be like, I'm going to dodge these fools. That way I can get to like the dailies or whatever I need to reroll. You're going to want to kill every single one of those mother effers in case you're like not focused on rerolling and just want to go through the game, because monsters do have like a reset timer. I don't know if it's 4 hours, 6 hours, 2 hours, whatever, daily reset. All you need to know is that those bad boys drop resources that you can use to level up your characters, limit break them, or get traces. And it's really annoying when you have to kill like those butterflies. And the only way you can like limit break your character so you can tackle more content is by backtracking, or you do like the little like things where you get the level materials and it drops like maybe some of like the resources that you need to get traces or limit breaks. Anyways, those monsters are a thing that's going to time gauge you, so make sure to kill those things and you will not regret it. And this also goes into chests. It's another thing that you should ideally open because they're going to have gear, relics, all the things that you need in order to progress your account. And you're going to be like, hey, should I be leveling up the 3-star relics that you get? Well, I would say no, hold off. If you really have to, do like the +4s to get an extra stat, but it's honestly a waste. But if you really need to do it, then do what you do, but avoid it at all costs, because that's going to be another thing that you're going to have to farm. It's another thing that you're going to have to accumulate. It's just, you don't want to level up things that you just don't use, even if you can put it on another piece of gear. Because the things that you want to focus on ideally is going to be the chest piece or the armor or the foot piece or the feet, because those things provide percentage stats And that's just going to be something that you could use like holistically a lot longer. You'll unlock like other relics that will also provide, percentage stats. And this goes into another thing where you have regional currency that will allow you to buy like the epic versions of the relics, and they're going to be super tempting. You're going to be like, oh, that looks really good, it's inexpensive. No, you don't do that. Use your regional currency for traces or materials that you need in order to level up characters or in order to tackle progression. Relics are a trap, just like how artifact and gear grinding is a trap in Genshin. You don't do that until the late game. You focus on your levels, you focus on your traces, or your skill level ups, and then you focus on your Lightcones if you have like 4-star, 5-star variant versions of them. Because those things are a lot more controllable, they're not as RNG. Artifact grinding is going to be something where it's like, oh, I have leveled up my characters, I have extra time to just spend the fuel on random things, and I don't need like a steady upgrade, because steady upgrades are just better than RNG upgrades. I think a lot of people know that, but if you don't know that, it's completely fine. Do whatever you want, but that's just coming from my experience. Relics, it took a while to farm the one that you want, but there's also going to be a system where you can pick and choose like the stats that you can, have relics like putting on and everything, but that's a later thing. Get relics to like +4, +8, like the epic versions, and you'll get relics from quests like we talked about earlier. Do the quests, they're really important. They don't just provide relics, Lightcones, like I said earlier. This goes into another thing. Is it okay to commit to a team early on? How many characters should I be building? When you're going through, at least like you're not at like the first city, you're going through the space station and you haven't gotten to the point where you're like re-rolling, you can build 2 characters from the very beginning. Let's say you want to build up to 3 characters. I'm including like March 7, Trailblazer, and Don Hong. Do it. That's totally fine. But once you get to other points, try not to build more than 4 characters at a time, ideally. That way you're not spreading your resources too thin, because if you spread your resources too thin, next thing you know, you're content locked because you just don't have enough levels. Or let's say you can't get through the next like Trailblaze power level or world rank level because you need to expend XYZ fuel. Ideally, your characters will be strong enough to tackle the next world level content because you funneled your resources into them. It's going to be very tempting to level up multiple characters at once, and then your world rank like increases and all the enemies get stronger and everyone's booping and bopping you, and you're like, what the heck happened? Because you didn't focus on characters and everyone's strong, and now you have to go through the process of like expending even more fuel in order to focus on those characters, and it's like an endless cycle. I just don't want you to be there. I was there and it really sucked. Anyways, this goes into another thing. Now that you've committed to a team where you're building 2 characters at a time and then 4 characters, should you be rerolling? Who are my reroll targets? My reroll targets are going to be Bailu and Bronya. If you are rerolling for more than 2 or 3 days, I'm going to tell you to stop, because by then you're not doing your weeklies, okay? Because if you don't do your weeklies, which I'm pretty sure it's going to reset on a Sunday, that is going to be the issue. Weeklies are a huge resource gap that you're going to need in order to make sure you're at like the proper world ranks and all that stuff. Now, it's not a race of like getting to like content and being like the highest world rank and highest Trailblaze power. That's not the point. It's just that you're going to be missing out on summoning resources if you keep re-rolling, and you could easily use the 4-star characters and get through the game. There's going to be people who's going to be beating the entire game with 4 stars, and you're going to look at yourself being like, why did I reroll? Anyways, Bronya, Bailu, really good. Reroll for them in case you want to. Just don't spend more than a week so you don't miss out on the weekly resources. And this goes into another thing. How should you be building teams? Should it be 1 element? Should it be 2 elements? Ideally, it's 3 to 4 elements. If you're running 1 to 2 element teams, you're doing something wrong, because there's going to be weaknesses that enemies have, and they're going to have multiple weaknesses. It's nothing like Genshin or other games where they're weak to 1 type. They're weak to multiple types, and when you have at least 2 weakness breaks, ideally, when you're going into a fight, that's going to be the best case scenario. If you only have 1, you're doing something drastically wrong, unless you are, in the end game and you're just better off focusing with that particular like team where weakness breaks are not just important to you. You can tank through them, whatever, but that's like a late game thing. Regardless of the point, early game, try to bring at least 2 weakness break characters and focus on the 4. And then once you have 4 characters who are around like level 70, then you can start branching out to other characters. Level 70, 60, ideally like level 80, but it's not really that necessary. But then you can start building other characters. Ideally have 1 element of each scenario that you can go through. You're going to get all 5 elements. There's 6 total elements. I can't name them off all the top of my head, but 5 of them are going to be free for you to acquire. And this goes to another thing. This is more of a suggestion, not really a mistake in my opinion. If you can get to the dailies, do it. There's going to be a reset in 7 hours at the start of the game. If you're wondering, that's around 2 a.m. PST. That's when the reset is. So I guess midnight EST. I could be wrong on that because, the calculations was like it's 7 hours until reset. Regardless of the point, in case you're min-maxing, in case that's a mistake to you, try to get to the daily as soon as possible. And after that, backtrack, get all the chests, get all the monsters and all that stuff. But it's up to you what you want to prioritize. To me, this is something that I'm going to be doing. That way I can get the max amount of summons and everything, because dailies do provide that small incy-wincy bit of like resources that you can acquire. The last thing that I will say is there's going to be a bunch of like events and menus that you can navigate through within Honkai Star Rail. You're going to be getting free characters. Serval is going to be in the mail in case you're looking for them. Your free summons are going to be in the mail. There's going to be like Natasha. She's going to be in the events tab, and she's going to be like the healer that everyone wants. And you're going to be like, oh, I need a summon for Natasha or whatever. You get her for free. You get a free healer, so you don't have to focus on Bailu. All of the 5 stars are really good. Clara is really good. Like, don't sleep on anyone. And some of the 4 stars are even better than some of the 5 stars. I would say even Gepard is good in his own ways. While he tries to replace March 7th, he can't replace March 7th. Anyways, I'm getting into other things. Those are all the mistakes to avoid. If you get anything out of this video, just spend your fuel. Try to build 2 characters and then 4 characters. Go from there. And then, make sure to explore everything. Try not to rush the content. If you're really trying to rush content, I guess you can refresh your fuel. Probably do it no more than once or twice a day, but you should probably avoid that in case you want to summon for characters, because the Sealy banner is insane. Probably won't have enough free-to-play resources to pity her. In case you guys are wondering, you have a better chance pitting for Jing Yuan. And technically speaking, if you're worried about tier list, Jing Yuan is better because he doesn't take as much setup as Sealy. But in the end, both of them are great, and Sealy is a waifu. I know Jing Yuan, same BAs. One thing that I really want to also avoid is don't look at tier lists that say XYZ character is bad. I said Arlen was bad on my tier list. Arlen is busted with Bronya. Arlen is the only character that doesn't use skill points in order to use his skills, and that's really busted because that means that leaves more room for team compositions where you can spam Bronya skill or spam heals, spam like supports and all the attacks and speed. Yeah, this is a largely complicated game under the hood in case you wanted to, but it's also simple in case you wanted to. But yeah, tier lists don't really matter, and it's going to be a really fun time. Anyways, if you made it this far in today's video, consider subscribing, dropping a like, leaving a comment, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram in case you want to see me IRL, all the workouts I do, and all the things like that. Once we hit 40k subs, we're doing a giveaway. Thanks so much for watching. Have yourself a fantastic day. Good luck on whatever you do. I'm going to be re-rolling, even though I said not to do it. But we'll do like live streams and all that stuff. Thanks so much for watching. Have yourself a fantastic day, and see you guys in the next one.